Naomi Carter had not eaten since yesterday morning, but when she saw the old man's grocery bag tearing open, she stepped forward and said, "Let me carry that for you, sir." That was the kind of woman she was. Late November in Cleveland turned the streets ash gray. Wind came off Lake Erie and slipped through every weak seam in a coat. Outside Marshall Foods, people hurried by with their heads down, shoulders raised against the cold, faces closed against the world. Naomi stood near the curb with her 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Naomi was 34, a black single mother with tired brown eyes, dark hair tucked under a faded knit hat, and a beauty hardship had not erased. Her brown coat was old but clean, her shoes were worn. She had almost nothing left, but she refused to let poverty become her name. Lily held a gray stuffed rabbit with one missing button eye. Her braids were tied with pale pink bands, and Naomi's scarf was wrapped twice around her neck. "Mama," Lily whispered, "are we going home soon?" Naomi looked at the grocery window. Warm light touched apples, bread, milk, and a sign that read day-old rolls, half price, home. The word hurt. Their apartment on Larkin Street was gone. 3 missed rent payments had become a notice on the door. The shelter had been full last night. Naomi had spent the darkness sitting upright in a bus station corner, keeping Lily's head against her shoulder and pretending she was not afraid. "Soon, baby," Naomi said. "Just a little longer." She was not waiting to steal. "Sometimes near closing time, mister." Patel placed bruised fruit and stale bread near the side door for people who accepted help quietly. Then the grocery door chimed. An elderly white man stepped out, silver hair neatly cut, gray wool coat falling around his knees. He carried 2 paper bags and leaned on a wooden cane. Naomi saw the danger. The larger bag had a wet spot across the bottom. The paper sagged, split, and an orange pressed against the corner. The old man shifted his grip, but his cane slipped. People walked around him, a man in headphones, a woman on her phone, a young couple laughing too loudly to see anything beyond themselves. Lily tugged Naomi's sleeve. "Mama, his food is gonna fall." Naomi looked at her daughter, then at the old man. Some moments are so small the world does not notice them. Yet a life can turn upon them. She crossed the street. "Sir," Naomi said gently, "your bag is about to break. Let me carry that for you." The old man turned. His eyes were pale blue, aged but alert. "Oh," he said softly, "I suppose it is." Naomi slid both hands beneath the bag as the bottom gave another rip. Bread, oranges, milk, soup, and potatoes pressed into her arms. The smell of bread rose toward her face. She was hungry, so was her child. But she held the bag steady. Lily looked up at the man. "My mama's strong." The old man's expression changed, not with pity but with respect. "I can see that," he said. Naomi adjusted the weight. "Where are you headed, sir?" "We can walk with you." "My car is near the lake," he replied. "A few blocks, then we'll walk you there. You don't have to." "I know," Naomi said. "But we can." He rested both hands on his cane. "My name is Harold Whitaker." "Naomi Carter," she said. "And this is Lily." Harold bowed. "A pleasure, Miss Lily." Lily hid behind her rabbit but smiled. Naomi thought she was helping an old man carry groceries. She did not know Harold Whitaker had once owned 3 manufacturing companies across Ohio. She did not know half the city still carried quiet traces of his generosity. She did not know that, before the night was over, he would offer warm bread, a safe room, and the first open door she had seen in months. Naomi walked beside Harold Whitaker with the torn grocery bag held against her chest. Lily stayed close, gripping her mother's coat and holding her gray stuffed rabbit. Harold's cane tapped the sidewalk. Tap, pause, tap. It sounded like an old clock refusing to hurry. For the first block, no one spoke. Naomi kept both hands beneath the weak paper bottom. Bread, oranges, milk, potatoes, and soup cans pressed into her arms. Harold looked at Lily. "That rabbit seems like a faithful friend." "Her name is Bunny," Lily said. Mama fixed her eye. "A wise mother," Harold replied. Naomi smiled. She had sewn that missing eye with black thread while Lily slept. They passed a closed barber shop, a pawn shop, and a laundromat glowing behind fogged glass. Lily looked at the yellow light, and Naomi looked away first. "Mrs. Carter," Harold said gently, "do you live nearby?" His voice touched her. Mrs. Carter, not girl. Not honey, not a tired woman people could speak to carelessly because life had already been unkind. "Not far," Naomi said. Their apartment on Larkin Street was 20 minutes away, but the lock had changed that morning. Naomi had learned a place could be nearby and still no longer belong to you. Harold nodded, as if he heard what she had not spoken. "Were you buying groceries at Marshall Foods?" "Waiting, mostly. For what?" "Sometimes they mark down old bread near closing," she said. "Sometimes Mr. Patel leaves a box by the side door." Harold's cane paused, then continued. "There is no shame in waiting for bread." Naomi looked at him. She had expected pity, advice, or a speech from someone outside her trouble. Instead, he offered dignity. Wind swept down the street. Lily shivered so hard Bunny nearly slipped from her arms. Harold stopped. "Miss Lily," he said. "Would you help me with a problem?" Lily blinked. "What problem?" "My scarf keeps trying to escape. Would you hold it for me?" His scarf had not moved, but Harold unwound the brown wool and draped it around Lily's shoulders. "There," he said. "Now it has a job." Lily touched the scarf. "It's warm. It has been waiting all day to be useful." Naomi turned away. Cruelty had edges, she understood. Kindness slipped past every lock. Ahead, a long dark car waited in a gravel lot near a closed bait shop. A man in a driver's cap stood beside it. Naomi slowed. "That is Marcus," Harold said. "He has driven me for 22 years. He is a good man." Marcus tipped his cap. "Good evening, Mom." "Good evening, young lady," Harold said. "Marcus, this is Mrs. Naomi Carter and Miss Lily Carter. They saved my groceries from disaster." "Then we owe them our thanks," Marcus replied. He reached for the bag, but Naomi held it 1 second longer. It had become proof she could still be useful. Then she let go. "Careful, the bottom's nearly gone." "Yes, Mom." Harold reached inside his coat. Naomi stiffened. "No, sir," she said. "I didn't help you for money." Harold drew out a white card. "I know. That is why I am not offering money." The card read, Harold J. Whitaker, with a phone number beneath it. "A woman named Dorothy answers this number. If you need someone to call, say your name." Naomi took it carefully. Then Harold looked at Lily. "I was going to supper at a small restaurant nearby. I would be honored if you and your daughter joined me." Naomi wanted to refuse, but Lily's face was pale. "Just supper?" she asked. "Just supper." Naomi held the card like a small key. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "We would be grateful." The restaurant was called Anna's, a narrow brick place on Larchmere Boulevard, tucked between an antique bookstore and a tailor. From outside, it looked ordinary. But when Marcus opened the door, warm air rolled over Naomi and Lily like a quilt. The first thing Lily noticed was bread. Not packaged bread from a shelf, but real bread browning behind the door. Lily lifted her face as if the scent called her name. Naomi noticed the white tablecloths, the polished glasses, the quiet people eating soup. She noticed how clean the floor was. She noticed her shoes still carried dust. Her hand tightened around Lily's. Harold saw it and said nothing. A woman came from the kitchen. Wiping her hands on a towel, she was short, round-faced, with gray hair pinned behind her head. "Harold," she said, 3 weeks. "You disappear and expect forgiveness." Harold smiled. "I hoped bread might soften your judgment." "Bread softens everything except stubborn old men." Then Anna turned to Naomi and Lily. She did not measure their need. She simply bent toward Lily and said, "And who is this young lady keeping Harold's scarf safe?" Lily touched the brown wool around her shoulders. "I'm Lily. This is Bunny. A pleasure." "Lily, a pleasure, Bunny." Lily giggled. Naomi felt her throat tighten. "This is Mrs. Naomi Carter," Harold said. "She and Lily rescued my groceries." Anna looked at Naomi with steady kindness. "Then you rescued supper itself. Come, you'll sit by the window." Naomi almost said they could not stay, but Anna had already pulled out a chair for Lily. Lily climbed up, holding Bunny. Naomi sat beside her. Harold placed his cane against the table. A basket of warm bread arrived first with butter in a small white dish. Naomi stared too long. Her body knew hunger before her pride could stop it. Harold tore a piece for himself, spread butter on it slowly, then looked out the window, giving Naomi the mercy of not being watched. That courtesy nearly broke her. She took a piece, gave half to Lily, and kept half. Lily bit into the bread. Her eyes widened. "Mama." "I know, baby," Naomi whispered. Anna brought chicken soup next, thick with carrots, celery, noodles, and tender meat. Lily ate carefully at first, then faster. Naomi touched her wrist. "Slowly, sweetheart," Harold nodded. "Good soup should be trusted gradually." Lily smiled into her bowl. Naomi ate slowly, though every part of her wanted to forget manners and need. The warmth moved through her chest, into places she had stopped naming. Halfway through the meal, Harold said, "Mrs. Carter, you may tell me this is none of my business." Naomi lifted her eyes. "Are you and Lily safe tonight?" The spoon in Naomi's hand became still. Anna said nothing. Marcus waited near the door. Naomi looked at Lily, who was dipping bread into soup. "We were looking for a place," Naomi said. "The shelter was full," she added. "It happens." The words sounded ordinary. That was the cruelty of hardship. After a while, terrible things dressed themselves as facts. Harold folded his hands. "My home has a guest room," he said. "Clean sheets, a bathroom, a door that locks from the inside." Naomi's first instinct was fear. Her second was pride. Her third was Lily. "For tonight," Harold said. "Tomorrow we can think clearly." Lily leaned against Naomi's arm. "Mama." "Can we?" Naomi closed her eyes for one breath. When she opened them, the world had not become easy, but for the first time in weeks, it had become possible. "Yes," she whispered. "Thank you." Harold's house stood beyond the city lights as where Cleveland gave way to quiet roads. Bare trees and fields silvered by the moon. It was not a mansion in the way Naomi imagined rich men lived. It was a long stone farmhouse with warm windows, a slate roof, and a wreath of dried wheat on the front door. Still, Naomi held Lily's hand tightly when Marcus stopped the car. The house was too quiet, too large, too unknown. Harold did not rush her. "We can turn around," he said. "Marcus can take you anywhere you choose." Naomi looked at Lily asleep against her coat. Bunny pressed beneath her chin, Harold's scarf still wrapped around her small shoulders. "No," Naomi whispered. "We'll come in." Marcus opened the door. Cold air touched Naomi's face again, but this time it did not own her. Harold stepped carefully with his cane. Naomi lifted Lily into her arms. The child stirred but did not wake. Inside, the house smelled faintly of wood polish, lemon soap, and old books. A lamp glowed on a table near the hall. Family photographs lined the wall. Harold as a younger man, a woman with bright eyes beside him, a boy on a bicycle, a girl holding flowers. A small woman waited near the staircase. Her hair was iron gray, pulled back neatly, and her face held the kind of calm that came from many years of knowing what to do when people were hurting. "This is Dorothy," Harold said. Dorothy stepped forward, but not too close. "Welcome, Mrs. Carter. Welcome, Lily." Naomi noticed she did not ask questions, not where they came from, not why they needed a room, not what had gone wrong. She simply reached for a folded blanket. "The guest room is ready," Dorothy said. "First floor. Near the back, no stairs for tonight." Naomi followed her down a short hallway. Every step felt unreal. The floorboards shone. The air was warm. Somewhere a clock ticked gently. Dorothy opened a white door. The room was small, but to Naomi it looked impossible. A bed with clean sheets, a quilt folded at the foot, a lamp beside the bed, a small bathroom through another door, 2 towels, a pitcher of water, a child-sized toothbrush still in its package. And then Naomi saw it, a lock on the inside of the bedroom door. Dorothy touched it lightly. "It works," she said. "No one will open this door without your permission." Naomi's breath caught. People who had never lost safety did not understand what a lock could mean. To them, it was hardware. To Naomi, it was a boundary, a promise. A small piece of the world saying, "Here, you may close your eyes." She lowered Lily onto the bed. The little girl sighed, rolled toward Bunny, and slept on. Dorothy placed a nightgown on the chair. "For Lily, if it fits. There's tea in the kitchen. Soup, too, if you need more." "Thank you," Naomi said. The words were too small, but they were all she had. Dorothy smiled. "Small steps, Mrs. Carter." When she left, Naomi locked the door. The click was quiet. Still, it echoed through her whole body. Naomi sat on the edge of the bed and covered her mouth with both hands. She had not cried at the restaurant. She had not cried in the car. But now, beside her sleeping child, in a room where no one could simply walk in, tears came silently. Not because everything was fixed, because for one night nothing was chasing them. Morning came softly to Harold Whitaker's house. It did not arrive with sirens, footsteps, or the fear of someone telling Naomi Carter to move along. It arrived through winter light on cream curtains, through coffee downstairs, and through Lily breathing beside her, one hand curled around Bunny's ear. For a moment, Naomi did not know where she was. Then she saw the quilt towels and locked door. Memory returned, and with it came a feeling harder to bear than fear, relief. Lily opened her eyes. "Mama? I'm here. Is this Mr. Harold's house?" "Yes, baby." Lily touched the pillow. "Can we stay?" Naomi sat up slowly. Her body felt heavy from rest. "We're here for now," she said. "We'll be polite. We'll say thank you. We won't touch what isn't ours." Lily nodded solemnly. A knock came. "Mrs. Carter," Dorothy called. "It's only me. May I leave something outside?" Naomi opened the door. Dorothy stood with clothes and socks. "These belong to my granddaughters. Clean and warm. Take what fits." Naomi saw a blue sweater for Lily, a gray sweatshirt for herself, and socks made of mercy. "I can wash them and bring them back," Naomi said. Dorothy shook her head. "They have been waiting for someone who needed them." Naomi lowered her eyes. "Thank you." Downstairs, breakfast waited. Toast, eggs, oatmeal, sliced apples, coffee, and milk for Lily. Nothing grand. Yet it sat there as if 2 extra people had always belonged. Harold was seated, his cane beside his chair. He wore a navy cardigan over a white shirt. Without the gray coat, he looked older, smaller, but his pale eyes were bright. "Good morning, Miss Lily." "Good morning, Mr. Harold," Lily whispered. Naomi remained standing. "We don't want to impose." Harold buttered his toast carefully. "Mrs. Carter, if a table has empty chairs and food enough, no one is imposing by sitting down." Dorothy poured coffee. Naomi sat. For several minutes there were only spoons, cups, and Lily discovering oatmeal tasted better with brown sugar. Harold did not ask where they would go. Dorothy did not ask what happened. Their kindness had no hooks in it that frightened Naomi most. After breakfast, Lily drew by the window with colored pencils Dorothy found in a drawer. Naomi helped clear the table, though Dorothy protested. "I need to do something," Naomi said. Dorothy understood and handed her a towel. At the sink, Naomi washed a cup already clean enough. Warm water ran over her hands. "I lost my job 2 days ago," she said. Harold looked up. "At the laundry. You saw me look at the laundromat." "I did," Naomi nodded. "They cut my hours first, then all of them. Rent was behind." "And Lily's father?" Dorothy asked gently. "Gone," Naomi said. Long enough that his absence stopped feeling new. No one judged the answer. "I tried every office," Naomi continued. "Housing assistance, emergency aid, child services. One sent me to another. Another said call Monday. Monday kept moving farther away." Harold's face tightened, not at Naomi but at the machinery around her. "Do you have your papers?" "Some. In my bag. May I have someone look at them?" "Not to take over. Only to see whether a door was closed properly." Naomi studied him. Help from powerful people could feel like a net, but Harold waited, hands visible, letting her choose. "All right," she said. At the window, Lily lifted her drawing. It showed a house, a rabbit, and 3 people by the door. "Look." "Mama," Lily said. "I drew us safe." Naomi pressed the towel to her heart. The days did not become easy all at once, but they became countable again. Harold's lawyer arrived before noon in a plain brown coat and sensible shoes. Her name was Grace Bennett. She was in her 60s with silver glasses, a leather folder, and the calm voice of someone used to finding doors inside walls. She did not look at Naomi with pity. She looked at her like a doctor studies an injury, carefully, respectfully, ready to heal what could be healed. Naomi sat at the kitchen table with her canvas bag in her lap. Lily played in the next room under Dorothy's watch, building a house for Bunny. "These are all I have," Naomi said. She placed the papers on the table, a creased lease, a termination notice, 2 shelter intake forms, a child care receipt, 3 county envelopes. One was unopened because Naomi had feared what it might say. Grace put on her glasses. "We will go slowly," she said. "Nothing here can hurt you by being read." That sentence made Naomi breathe easier. Harold sat at the far end of the table, hands folded over his cane. He had asked Naomi's permission to stay. She had surprised herself by saying yes. Grace read in silence. Sometimes she wrote notes. Sometimes she asked a question so precise it felt less like digging and more like lifting a thorn. After 20 minutes, her expression changed. "Mrs. Carter," Grace said, "did anyone explain why your emergency housing application was denied?" Naomi shook her head. "They said I missed an appointment." Grace tapped one paper. "According to this, the appointment notice was mailed to your old address after the eviction notice had already been filed." Naomi stared at her. "They sent it to the apartment I was losing?" "Yes. But I told them, I believe you." Grace turned another page. "And your child care subsidy was suspended because they requested employment verification from the laundry after your hours had been cut. But before your termination was processed, that created a gap." Naomi gave a tired laugh. "A gap. Such a polite word for a hole large enough to fall through." Grace's face softened. "Systems often call it a gap when a person is standing inside it." Harold's fingers tightened on his cane. Naomi looked down. For months, she had wondered whether she had failed because she was not smart enough, not organized enough, not strong enough. Now she saw something colder. She had been moving through a maze where the walls changed while she walked. "What happens now?" she asked. Grace closed the folder. "Now we correct the record. We request emergency review, reinstatement of benefits, and temporary housing protection. We also contact Lily's school so her enrollment remains stable." Naomi's eyes lifted. "I don't want trouble." "Requesting what you qualify for is not trouble," Grace said. Harold spoke. "It is a receipt the world owes you." Naomi pressed her hands together. She wanted to believe them, but hope still felt dangerous, like stepping onto ice before knowing if it would hold. From the next room, Lily called. "Mama, Bunny has a bedroom now." Naomi turned. Lily stood in the doorway, smiling, holding up a crooked little house made of blocks. For the first time, Naomi did not correct the dream. "That's beautiful, baby," she said. Grace gathered the papers. "I will make calls today." Harold looked at Naomi. "You are still in charge of your life, Mrs. Carter. We are only helping carry what became too heavy." Naomi remembered the grocery bag tearing open on the sidewalk, and for the first time, she understood that some burdens were never meant to be carried alone. Naomi Carter returned to the laundry 3 days later wearing Dorothy's gray sweatshirt under her old brown coat. Lily stayed at Harold's house with Dorothy. drawing pictures near the kitchen window while Grace Bennett made phone calls that sounded calm enough to move mountains. Harold offered to send Marcus with Naomi. She almost said no. Then she remembered what Harold had told her the night before. Courage does not always mean walking alone. So Marcus drove her back to East Cleveland and parked across the street from Brightspin Laundry, where Naomi had folded sheets, scrubbed machines, and cleaned lint traps until her hands cracked. The front window reflected her face back at her, tired, serious, but standing. "You want me to come in?" Marcus asked. Naomi looked at the building. "No," she said, "but please wait. I will." Inside, the laundry smelled of bleach, damp cotton, and hot coins from old dryers. Mrs. Harlan, the manager, stood behind the counter checking receipts. She was a thin white woman with red glasses and a mouth that always looked busy judging something. When she saw Naomi, her eyebrows lifted. "Naomi, I thought we finished everything." Naomi kept her voice steady. "I need my termination letter and my last pay records," Mrs. Harlan sighed. "Payroll handles that." "I called payroll. They said the request has to come from you." A man folding towels at the back looked up, then looked down again. Mrs. Harlan leaned closer. "I don't have time for this today." Naomi felt the old fear rise, the fear of being too much trouble, too difficult, too poor to insist. Then she thought of Grace's words. "Requesting what you qualify for is not trouble." "I understand you're busy," Naomi said. "But I need the records today. My daughter's housing application depends on them." Mrs. Harlan's face tightened. "Naomi, you missed shifts. You cut my hours first. You became unreliable. My child care subsidy was delayed because my hours were cut. I told you that." The room grew quieter. A dryer hummed, turning someone's towels in a circle of warm air. Mrs. Harlan lowered her voice. "This is not the place." Naomi did not lower hers. She did not raise it either. "It is the place where I worked, so it is the place where I ask for my records." The words surprised her. They stood straighter than she felt. Mrs. Harlan looked toward the window. Marcus sat in the car across the street, still as stone. "Is that man with you?" "Yes," Naomi said. Something shifted then, not justice, not apology. Only the small fear some people feel when they realize a person they dismissed may no longer be alone. Mrs. Harlan opened a drawer. "Give me 10 minutes." Naomi waited by the counter. She remembered winter evenings when Lily sat in the corner after school, coloring on receipt paper while Naomi worked past closing. She remembered bringing home towels nobody wanted, washing them twice, and cutting one into smaller cloths because buying paper towels had become impossible. She had not been lazy. She had not been careless. She had been tired. Mrs. Harlan returned with an envelope. "Here," Naomi opened it before leaving. "Termination letter, pay history. Hours reduced over 6 weeks, final check stub." "Thank you," Naomi said. Mrs. Harlan did not answer. Outside, Naomi walked to the car. Marcus opened the door. "Did you get what you needed?" Naomi held up the envelope. "Yes," as the car pulled away. Naomi looked once at the laundry window. She did not feel victory. Victory was too loud for this moment. She felt something quieter. She felt the beginning of standing again. The envelope from Brightspin Laundry changed more than Naomi expected. Grace Bennett used it the way a seamstress uses one strong thread to repair a torn hem. By Friday morning, the county office had agreed to review Naomi's file again. Lily's school confirmed she could remain enrolled. A temporary housing voucher was no longer impossible, only delayed. Delayed was still hard, but impossible had been heavier. Naomi sat at Harold's kitchen table while Grace explained the next steps. Harold listened quietly, his cane resting against his knee. Dorothy packed Lily's lunch into a small paper bag with an apple, a sandwich, and a note that said, "Have a brave day." Lily wore the blue sweater Dorothy had given her. It fit a little loosely in the sleeves, but she loved it because, as she told Harold, "It feels like a hug that learned how to be clothes." Harold laughed softly. "That is the finest review a sweater can receive." Naomi smiled, then looked away before the feeling could overflow. That afternoon, Marcus drove them to Lily's school. Naomi had worried the other children would ask questions, but Lily walked in holding Bunny beneath one arm and Dorothy's lunch bag in the other, as if she had always known how to enter a building with hope. Naomi watched from the sidewalk until the door closed behind her. "She is strong," Harold said. Naomi turned. He had come with Marcus, though he moved slowly in the cold. "She shouldn't have to be this strong," Naomi said. "No child should," Harold answered, "but strength is not the same as damage. Sometimes it is proof that love has been doing its work." Naomi held those words all morning. Later, Harold asked if she would accompany him on an errand. The errand turned out to be a children's clothing store 3 blocks from Anna's restaurant. Naomi stopped at the entrance. "Mr. Harold, no." He did not pretend not to understand. "Winter's not finished," he said. "I know, but I can't let you buy everything. I am not buying everything. You know what I mean." Harold rested both hands on his cane. "Then let us make an agreement. You choose what Lily needs. I will pay today. When life steadies under your feet, you may pass the kindness forward in whatever way you choose." Naomi looked through the window. Inside were coats in rows, boots with fur-lined tops, mittens clipped together so children would not lose them. Pride stood in her like a locked gate. Then she remembered Lily shivering outside Marshall Foods. Naomi opened the door. They chose carefully: a warm plum-colored coat, snow boots, 2 pairs of gloves, a knit hat with small white flowers stitched near the brim. Naomi refused everything extra, and Harold accepted each refusal without argument. When Lily saw the coat after school, she touched it with both hands. "For me, for you," Naomi said. Lily put it on. The sleeves reached her wrists. The zipper worked. The hood covered her ears. She spun once, then stopped suddenly. "Mama," she whispered, "now the cold can't find me." Naomi knelt and pulled her close. "No, baby," she said, "not so easily." Harold turned toward the school's yard fence, giving them privacy. That evening, Lily slept early in the guest room, wearing her new hat beside Bunny on the pillow. Naomi stood in the hallway holding the empty lunch bag Dorothy had saved. Harold came beside her. "Tomorrow," he said, "Grace has news about a small apartment." Naomi looked at him. For months, tomorrow had meant fear. Now, for the first time, it sounded like a door. Grace's news came on a Tuesday morning, while snow tapped softly against Harold's kitchen windows. The apartment was small, but real. 2 rooms above a bakery on a street near Lily's school. The rent would be covered for 3 months through emergency housing assistance, and after that, Naomi would pay a reduced amount while she trained for a position at Anna's restaurant. Naomi read the paper twice. "Is this certain?" she asked. Grace smiled. "Certain enough to buy dish towels." Lily clapped hands over Bunny's ears as if the rabbit might faint from happiness. "We get our own door?" Lily asked. Naomi looked at Grace. "Yes," Grace said, "your own door." Harold sat at the end of the table. Wearing his navy cardigan, one hand resting over the brass handle of his cane, he looked pleased but tired. More tired than Naomi had noticed the week before. "You have done beautifully, Mrs. Carter," he said. Naomi shook her head. "You did this?" "No," Harold replied. "We helped with paperwork. You kept your daughter alive through the winter of your life. Do not give away credit that belongs to you." Naomi lowered her eyes. The following weeks did not turn hardship into a fairy tale. There were still forms to sign, calls to return, and bills that looked larger than her courage. But each week brought one small repair. A document corrected, a school form restored, a meal eaten at a table, a night slept behind a door that held. 3 weeks later, Naomi and Lily moved into the apartment above the bakery. Dorothy folded the towels. Marcus carried boxes. Anna brought soup, bread, and a tin of cookies shaped like stars. Harold came last, climbing the stairs slowly, refusing help until the final step. The apartment smelled of flour, paint, and new beginnings. Lily ran from room to room. "Mama, the window can see the street." Naomi stood in the center of the living room, unable to move. There were no fine rugs, no grand furniture, no fireplace, just a second-hand couch, a small table, 2 beds, and a lock that worked. It was enough to make her knees weaken. Harold placed a small envelope on the table. "For later," he said. "What is it?" "A letter. Not urgent. Keep it somewhere safe." Naomi wanted to ask why his voice had grown softer, but Lily ran back and holding Bunny high, and the moment passed. Winter slowly loosened its grip. Naomi trained in Anna's kitchen, first washing dishes, then helping with prep, then learning the morning bread orders. Lily went to school every day in her plum coat. On Sundays, they visited Harold. Lily read picture books beside his chair while Naomi and Dorothy drank tea. By spring, Harold's steps had become slower. One bright April afternoon, Dorothy called. Naomi knew before the words came. Harold had passed in his sleep before dawn peacefully, with Dorothy in the next room and sunlight waiting at the window. At the funeral, people spoke of companies, factories, donations, buildings with his name on brass plaques. Naomi listened, holding Lily's hand. None of them mentioned the torn grocery bag. None of them knew the real size of the man. That evening, Naomi opened the envelope. Inside was one page. "Dear Mrs. Carter, I have lived long enough to know that kindness often arrives wearing a worn coat. You helped me when you had every reason to turn away. You gave your daughter an example no money could purchase. Remember this, I did not rescue you. I only recognized what was already standing in front of me. Keep the door open for someone else someday. Your friend, Harold J." Whitaker. Naomi pressed the letter to her heart. Lily whispered, "Mama, are we sad?" Naomi kissed her hair. "Yes, baby," she said, "but grateful too." Outside, the bakery lights came on below them, steady again. 1 year after Harold Whitaker's funeral, Naomi Carter stood in front of a brick building on East 105th Street and watched workers hang a sign above the door. The sign did not have her name on it. It read, "The Warm Door House," in plain black letters. Lily stood beside her in the coat that now reached only halfway down her arms. Bunny was tucked under one elbow, older and softer from being loved through another year. "Mama," Lily said, "is this where people come when they don't have a place?" Naomi nodded. "Yes, baby. And the door locks from the inside." Naomi looked down at her daughter. "Every bedroom." Lily smiled with the satisfaction of a child who understood more than adults wished children had to understand. The building had once been a boarding house. Harold's estate had helped Naomi purchase it. Anna had organized volunteers. Marcus had driven donated furniture across the city. Dorothy had sewn curtains for every room, each pair different, because she said people who had lost everything deserved to choose which window felt like theirs. Naomi had not become rich. She still worked at Anna's restaurant, now managing the morning kitchen. She still balanced bills, still bought apples by the bag when they were cheaper, still remembered what hunger felt like before it spoke. But she was no longer running. Inside the Warm Door House, there were 6 bedrooms, a common kitchen, a play corner, laundry machines, and a wall where families could place photographs when they were ready. The rules were simple. No one was shamed for needing help, ever. Children ate first. Every mother kept her own house key. On opening day, the first family arrived before noon. A young mother named Patrice stepped from the bus with 2 boys and a suitcase with a broken wheel. Her face carried the same guarded exhaustion Naomi knew too well. She held herself as if apology had become posture. Naomi met her at the door. "Welcome," she said. "I'm Naomi." Patrice looked past her into the warm hallway. "They said we could stay 2 nights. We'll start with 2, Naomi said. "Then we'll make a plan." The older boy ate, stared at the basket of rolls on the kitchen counter. Naomi saw him notice. She saw him pretend not to. "Lily," Naomi called. Lily came forward carrying a plate. She placed 2 rolls on it and handed it to the boy. "These are for you," Lily said. "You don't have to wait." The boy took the plate with both hands. Naomi turned toward the window before anyone could see her eyes fill. That evening, when the house settled, Naomi unlocked a frame in the front hallway. Inside it was Harold's letter, the one she had read until the creases became soft. Beneath it, she had placed a photograph of him sitting in Anna's restaurant, silver hair bright, his cane beside his chair. Dorothy came to stand beside her. "He would have liked this," Dorothy said. Naomi smiled through tears. "He told me to keep the door open." "And you did." Naomi looked down the hall. Behind one door, Patrice's youngest child was laughing in his sleep. Behind another, Lily was reading to Bunny under a lamp. For the first time, Naomi understood that rescue was not a single grand act. It was a living chain. One person held the bottom of the bag until another could breathe. Then that person turned and held the weight for someone else. Outside, Cleveland was cold again. Inside, every door could close safely. And every morning, it could open toward hope.